good morning or good afternoon or whatever you want it is here. And this is JD79 here at yeah, BRV, Bobby's Ranch Videos here, and more games coming out this month here. Naughty Bear coming out late this month here, late June here, and let me see, Toy Story 3. A lot of good stuff coming out here. But anyways, so we're gonna be going into like middle of my video gaming journey from back when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I actually played games for like a long duration of my lifetime, starting. God knows when here. But anyway, we're gonna show. Anyway, many people are going to be wondering, well, what was the first game system I ever played? And it's actually the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision. Back in the early 1980s, when we were in the first half of 1980, was basically predates the more modern gaming when the 8-bit NES came out in 1985. It actually is. This year is the 25th anniversary of when Nintendo modernizes the game in the game industry by releasing the 8-bit Nintendo, and many people are selling and trading 8-bit NES games today, and I think we're starting to see PlayStation 1 games being traded and sold. And after all, great systems have afterlives, and that's necessarily what's happening. They become classics, and they like to be sold again. And but I'm going to be showing you my chronological journey from my first system to the point I am at today, which is about 3 years to the day when I have my PlayStation 3 60GB, and when PS3s first came out, and also what the good and bad points were all the systems that are in here. So we're going to start off with in 1984, 1983. I don't remember if the thing is, but I think we got the Intellivision before the Atari 2600 as the first video game. I think my parents brought the Intellivision as more of an educational machine from when I was like 3 or 4 years old, back in 1983, 84. That here, and it's probably not going to go into much detail here because there are some good games out there. Space Invaders and Pac-Man are shoot 'em up games, are pretty good games here. But then there are bad games like E.T., where you fall into the pits, and that's all I remember when I was playing the E.T. Yeah, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. It was a terrible game. But the Atari wasn't a bad system, okay? It did broke a couple of times, but hey, I mean, it was earlier on in the games. And the 1970s, before I was born, the 2600 and the Telestar here, were basically Pong-style game systems that came out in the 1970s here. And I had the Intellivision, and the best game of the Intellivision was actually Snafu, and that's one game I remember in the Intellivision. I actually wake up in the morning with a stack of Oreos, because I love Oreo cookies. Back when I was growing up with Oreo cookies, I love them, and wake up early in the morning playing Snafu before I go to school, before my van arrives to take me to school. And actually, I have a cab that takes up and go to school. And but I did take out like a lot of Oreo cookies. I still remember these days. I wake up, eat Oreo cookies, and eat Snafu. That's the thing I remember on the Intellivision. Other games were great. The Dungeons and Dragons games weren't all that bad as well. And that's a strength point on the Dungeons and Dragons games. And they were pretty good games. First-person Dungeons and Dragons, and yeah, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons games. They were pretty good games. And remember one day having 3 arrows and like that. These are good points in Intellivision. The bad points in Intellivision, the shooter games are not nearly as good as the Atari 2600 games because, and that's one bad part of the Intellivision or the shooting games are just not as good as the Atari 2600. If I want to play Space Armada, says when I played Space Armada on the Intellivision, my thumb would hurt because of pressing these side buttons here. And yes, the controllers, they suck. Well, not entirely. The numeric pad on the controllers did have some good points to it. You can actually enter the amount of rounds you can put in here. And you have the disc here. It's the controller layout on the Intellivision that's terrible because of these 4 side buttons that you have to press. I mean, come on. Your hands are not designed to do this here. I mean, joysticks on the 2600 are better because you don't have the harmful button you have to press hard to push on the Intellivision on the stuff here. Controller wise, yeah, the 2600 basically wins, and so that's what I remember on the Atari 2600 versus the Intellivision. And the Intellivision does have some, yeah, it has good software, but if you want to play shoot-'em-up games, shooter games like Space Invaders type games, yeah, I choose the Atari over the Intellivision. But Astro Smash, yeah, I mean, it's a very good game. It's just the controllers that they use for it is the problem. And granted, the Intellivision had better graphics than the 2600, and because it's a 16-bit machine. That's not to say here because yeah. That's basically the 2600 Intellivision, and I also had a Commodore 64, which is basically a part computer, but it also is a wonderful game. It also makes a wonderful game system. Ultima 4 for the Commodore 64, awesome game, as well as many arcades. Many arcades, and the Commodore 64 was offered at a very good price. If you're a gamer back at the time, yeah, Commodore 64 is a really good decision here. But otherwise, if Commodore, about the Commodore 64 wise, the 2600 Intellivision here, and yeah, the 2600 Intellivision both break a few times, but you know. And that leads up here. And I don't remember very much of the video game crash in 1983 because I was 3 years old at that time, turning 4. It's like that here. And that's basically the first generation 2600. And I actually did own an Intellivision Part 2, which is more compact than the first one. There are a couple of problems with it, but the upside of the Intellivision 2 is that the controllers are detachable and therefore you can replace them. And unlike the first one and the third iteration of the Intellivision, where the controllers are hardwired into the system. And that's another flaw of the Intellivision, is that if your controller breaks, that's it, your system's dead. And that's why I had the first Intellivision, and that broke because the controllers didn't work. And so I had to buy a whole new system. Unlike it's usually done in Intellivision 2, in which the controllers are replaceable. And that's what I remember. That's basically the first 2 games. 1987, we were heading into the 3rd generation of gaming here. But actually we had the Atari 7800 because my 2600 basically broke, so we got the 7800. Came a pole position 2. But I didn't. But I view that pretty much as another 2600 because I mean, something like that. There aren't a lot of games with the 7800. It's basically a 2600 with the 7800 logo on it, and that's probably how I remember the 7800 today. But the major system, the first thing that I truly remember is the 8-bit NES. That it was actually my brother got it for Christmas back in 1987.